So today I'm going to walk you through this quick sketch that I did, tonal sketch and gouache. And one of the things that I've been trying to do right now, I'm trying to do art every single day. But I was really motivated to try to do just quick, short little sketches that I saw a video by the plein air artist Charlie Hunter, and he really made an exceptional case for why short little sketches are super useful to you as a plein air artist or just as an artist in general. And one of the things that I kind of do as my just a daily ritual is every morning I go outside for about 10 minutes and get sunlight in my eyes and drink my coffee and just kind of greet the day. And I sort of thought, what if instead of just standing there for 15 minutes drinking coffee, I sketch instead? So I've kind of been experimenting with that because I don't know about you guys, but coffee is an integral, necessary part of my day. So I'm not quite sure how to make it all work, because right now basically what I'm doing is I'm drinking my coffee first, and then I go out and look at the sun and doing this sketch. So that means that it's not like the first thing, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close to first. So I'm not necessarily really consider this plein air, even though obviously it is in plein air. It is outside from life. But it is a great way to get sun, and I'm not really thinking like, oh, this needs to be anything special. So this is just down my street, and I just have a sketchbook. I'm not even filling the page. This is maybe about a third of a medium-sized sketchbook, or it's a regular. I'm not even sure what size you would call it, A5 or A4. I don't know. It's not the pocket sketchbook, and it's not the big one. It's the one that's in the middle. And I'm taking about a third of the page, and I just want to do something tonal, so I'm just doing black and white gouache. One of the things I totally underestimated here was the temperature, because it was a nice sunny morning, and we've been having some decent temperatures in the 60s, but actually when I was painting this, it was probably in the low 20s or the early teens, and so I was deceived by the sunlight. But what you're going to see here is pretty soon the gouache is actually going to freeze. It's going to start freezing on the page and on the brush, and I've never experienced that. I mean, I know that that's a thing that happens, but I have never experienced that until just now. So we're kind of going to work through that, and I'm also going to discover that my hands are super cold and I'm going to need to put gloves on. These dulcet tones of nature that you're hearing is the garbage man. And obviously, like, that's part of the point of doing this, and I'm thinking about not getting precious with my subject matter, not getting precious with the sketch itself, not getting precious with any of it, but just getting out there. I'm getting sunlight. I'm starting the day. I'm getting outside. I'm not just being a hermit in my house. And I'm starting the day off with a little bit of a sketch. I'm starting the day off with artwork here. So I really wanted to just do something in black and white, because I really always want to work on tonal values, but in a way it kind of saves a lot of time, because you're not thinking about how to mix this blue, how to mix this color. You're just thinking about tonal values. What's my brightest bright? What's my darkest dark? Really, in this scene, I'm mostly thinking about, almost pure black for that tree, because it's an upright, plane, and then the sky is pure white here. and then basically like everything else that I'm doing is some kind of gray. And like as I'm looking at this house, you know, one side of it is slightly darker than the other, even though it's all in shadow. And so I'm kind of trying to keep track of that, as well as thinking about like the lights that are in shadow versus the darks that are in shadow. So like there's some trim and stuff that I'll put in around these windows, and I know like my angles aren't quite right on that roof line, and you know things aren't really perfect, but you know the idea that it's going to be like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it keeps me from getting too precious with it, feeling like a failure.
Paint's freezing.
Yeah, and here's where I'm noticing that it's freezing, and basically, you know, if you want, like, I know what the standard protocol is that rather than using water, you use like rubbing alcohol, or I've heard of people using gin. I guess you could use any kind of alcohol. I think technically it doesn't even have to be 100%. So you could mix a combination of water and alcohol, but all I had with me was water. So I'm just making it work. In a way, this is kind of an interesting scene because I have to delineate the planes of this house, even though they're both in shadows. I have to think about like gradations of shadow. And one of the things that I normally do when I paint is when I have color on the brush, I'll look for other areas that I can put that same color. So that's kind of what I'm doing here for, you know, some shadows under the eaves, for the chimney, for the windows. I'm using the same gray, even though they may not technically be, you know, flawlessly the same tone, but I think some of the same principles apply, that when, you know, when we're making artwork, unless you, especially plein air where we don't have unlimited time, you know, a lot of times we're really group tonal values. You know, the human eye sees something like billions, if not trillions, of degrees of tonal values in terms of like the human eye's ability to see gradations of light, right? I mean, just think about the next time you step outside on a sunny day. You know, typically when we plein air paint, we think of the light as like the closest thing to white, right? Or maybe your sky is almost pure white and then your clouds will actually be white, right? But imagine if it's a bright sunny day and you're using pure white for the highlights in your clouds. But then imagine that there's a car.
Look at that.
And imagine that there's a car and there's a highlight on the bumper of that car. And that, or on the mirror of a car. You know, you've ever seen those like super bright highlights? It's way brighter than the highlight on the cloud. It's way brighter than that, right? Imagine if you're going to depict the sun, you know, that's going to be way brighter than your highlight of the clouds as well. And so we're really limited, you know, if you say the cloud is pure white, you don't have any higher to go. You don't have anything that's brighter than pure white, right? And as artists, we have to kind of make those sacrifices that we know in reality there's so many layers to the brightness of things and the darkness of things, and yet we kind of just have white. You can't go brighter than white. And so you pick something to be your brightest bright, and you pick something to be your darkest dark, and we group those tonal values, and we still get the depiction of the thing itself, but it's not 100% realistic. I mean, the thing about the way light works is, like in nature, light is actually emanating from the sun and stuff like that. But when we paint and you put down pure white, light isn't emanating from that white. Light is bouncing off of that white, right? It's still actually just either light from a light bulb or it's light from the sun that hits that white pigment and then reflects back. So it's not the same thing as an emanation of light. And so, you know, I guess without getting too fundamental about it. Like, what does the word art mean? Art actually comes from the word artificial. We're artificially representing things that we see in front of us, and the whole point of plein air or urban sketching or drawing from life is to let nature be our teacher, to learn from reality. But you know what we were depicting, it's art, it's not reality, it's artificial to a certain extent. And so it's kind of like bridging that gap between what we see as real and how to depict it in an artificial way, but that still, is reminiscent of the reality that we see. And I think, for all of us, when I say at the end of my videos, you have a voice that matters, go be creative, it's because I really actually do believe that every single individual one of you who's watching this video right now, whatever art practice you do and however you do it, that you actually have a unique way of viewing the world. You have a unique lens of interpreting, and you're going to interpret that through your skill set, wherever it is. You're going to interpret that through the things that you think are worth painting. You're going to interpret that through where you live. If I lived in Paris, France, my street scene would look different than this. And if I live in Paris, Texas, it would look like something different too. But we are who we are. We live the lives that we have. And to me, this is kind of the cool thing about doing this urban sketch, practicing my skills, just doing something small, doing something quick. This is just a house down the street from my house. I like the dilapidated fence. I like that the house was shadow on both sides. I like the verticals of the trees and the telephone pole. I liked using the tonal background of the paper, and just trying to improve my gouache skills, improve my painting skills. And I really learned, like, honestly, you can paint through frozen paint. It's not ideal, but it is something you can do. So for sure, I think next time I want to get some rubbing alcohol or something like that. I'm not going to use whiskey. I feel like because the paint was frozen in a way, it was almost like acting kind of like it does when it's dry, and I could only kind of like half scumble or I had to like force the paint onto the page through just grinding it in, and it wasn't like adhering like it normally does. It wasn't wet, but I kind of like that because I got kind of a softness and almost a watercolory aspect to the sketch. So I think, like, let that be a lesson to you. Like, whatever you do, just keep rolling with the punches. Like, this isn't intended to be anything great, but I really like the atmosphere of it. And just kind of going in and putting in some more details here. And I think, like, my goal is to get faster by doing these shorter sketches. I also think, like, by doing it, it forces you to simplify your scene. It forces me to, like, not feel like I have to go to a location and paint something really exotic and special. And I feel like it actually allowed me to just think about stuff around in my neighborhood as special. I think, like, go out. If you don't know what to sketch, go out this week and go on your street and just look around, look down an alley, look down your street, look at one of your neighbors' houses or at a garage or just anything, and give yourself like 5 minutes to pick a composition and then sketch it. And don't worry about if it's, particularly good, because you're getting practice. To me, like, this is practice doing a house portrait. This is practice urban sketching. It's practice finding a composition. Practice, like I said, combining my tonal values, putting all that stuff together. It was really fun. Hey, so let's read some comments from you guys. Viridian Hughes 219 said, that center house in the bottom sketch is legit. Thanks, Viridian. she's talking about one of my community posts from some of these sketches that I've done, and I should be posting that second sketch soon in a video. So I do definitely feel like the more that I've been doing these daily, and also just doing art every day, but especially like just getting out there doing something short and quick, 15 minutes, it's really kind of opened my eyes as I'm like walking around my neighborhood to seeing just seeing compositions and seeing things that are like kind of interesting that I could probably do in 15 minutes or so. So that's been really fun, and hopefully I'll just keep getting better. Drawing skills, painting skills. I feel like you can get better with just 10 or 15 minutes a day. So you guys should try that. Holly Avilia 554 said, "Nice. How do you conquer sun blindness with the sun on white paper?" And that's a great question. A lot of times, well, number one, I don't always paint on white paper. Sometimes I paint on a toned surface, which that can definitely help. And I also think, like, usually it's pretty good to paint either in the shade or to somehow keep direct sunlight from being on your surface, whatever that is. But that said, there's definitely times when there's no way around that and you have to paint in direct sunlight on your surface. And I know some people really, really swear against it, but I also have seen great painters who do that all the time. Patrick Krasinski, if you check out his videos on YouTube, his tonal values are insane. Like, his paintings look painterly, but they have the tonal reality of a photograph. And a lot of times his surface is in direct sunlight. And I know I've heard from different artists, James Gurney talks about how if you want to get good tonal values, your palette and your surface have to be in the same lighting conditions as the subject that you're painting. So I'm not really sure how that works, but I know like James Gurney uses something to kind of diffuse the light. He has a diffuser. I used to paint with an umbrella, but a lot of times, honestly, the umbrella broke. So, but a lot of times, unless, you know, it's kind of a hassle. A lot of times, like, the wind will catch it. That's how it broke. And yeah, it broke on my first plein air event. On my very first painting, I was in direct sunlight. I set that thing up and it immediately broke. And then I had to paint the rest of that plein air event without it. But really, it was fine. I'll see if I can find a photo of that painting and throw it up here. If I can't, you'll just have to trust me. But yeah, I think if you can paint in some shade or get something to diffuse the light, that's ideal. But I also think it's not the end of the world if you paint in direct sunlight. You can kind of train yourself to do it. I've seen a lot of people do it. Anyways, thanks so much for kind of starting the conversation. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to anybody who leaves a super thanks. I have super thanks now, and I'm in desperate need of a tripod for my camera. So this is actually just sitting on a light stand. So I'm hoping to purchase that when I get enough money from the super thanks. So thank you to all of you who have helped me with that. Thank you to all of you who watch the videos, who comment, who like. And without you guys, this would be totally pointless. So all love and appreciation to you guys. Remember, you have a voice that matters. Go be creative. I'll see you next time.